Hello gamers, I'm Encasiel, and in this video we are going to talk about a change that might happen with the global release of Throne and Liberty, and sadly shows that whoever is in charge at AGS is making some decisions that should bring into question their desire to publish a good game and create a fair environment, or at the very least try to. I am not naive enough to believe that people in charge of the game are there to provide a good game. They are hired to make money, and that is their sole purpose. But it's always nice to see when a gaming company strives to do both. I already talked about why the free-to-play model is a model that has no real benefits for us as players, and it only serves the purpose of making things easier for the company in charge. At the same time, it enables bots to run rampant. So I'm not going to explain all that again, but the fact that free-to-play is terrible will be mentioned in this video. If you want to check out the other video, a link will be in the description. In this video, we are going over some highlights from an interview with Merv Lee Kwai from AGS in regards to Throne and Liberty. If you want to read the whole thing for yourself, a link will be available in the description. The original interview is in German, but I will link the English translated version as well. The relevant information to us from this interview will be the removal of AutoCombat and the PvP changes, and how these things together with the fact that the game is free to play will mostly benefit bot overlords. Let's start with the PvP changes. I see no point going into the finer details of this and wasting both my breath and your time, especially when the game is so far from being released. The highlights are that the game will be more PvE friendly, and while there will be still a massive focus on PvP, it will be harder or even impossible to just kill randomly unconsenting players. Regardless if you like this change or not, over the years it's been proven that most of the MMORPG community is PvE focused, and as such mechanics in games will reflect that. This is not a real problem on its own, but it will become a problem when we consider the game is free to play, so it has no barrier of entry for bots, and the removal of AutoCombat. Before we move forward, we have to address a mistake that the interviewer is making, and sadly this shows that they don't really understand what they are talking about. They are referring to AutoCombat as AutoPlay. These are two vastly different things. AutoPlay is a feature found mostly in mobile games. This feature stands out because it will do the following: automatically pick up and complete quests, automatically travel to the required locations, and automatically perform combat. These actions will be performed automatically and on repeat. This results in the game playing itself without much user input, or in most cases without any input at all. AutoCombat is a feature that selects the closest target to you, casts abilities off cooldown, and uses potions when needed. AutoCombat is basically a macro that any of you can create using a free program like AutoKeys in a matter of minutes, without having any prior coding experience. You even have some software that comes with various keyboards that allow you to create macros, which will have the same effect. On the other hand, AutoPlay is something that requires a decent amount of coding, and it is what bots use to farm resources and gold for their bot overlords. I hope this makes it very clear that in spite of their similar name, these features are vastly different and the distinction between them is necessary. I also need to mention that in general using macros will be against terms of service for most MMORPGs. This will stop most people from using them because, well, we don't want to get banned. However, this will not stop bots because they don't give a f about the terms of service. What is important to note is that AutoCombat will only gain you some small advantages. This feature will not be able to dodge or automatically participate in any meaningful combat, so it cannot be used to farm bosses or content that will require user input. It will be only used to replace mindless grind sessions where you outlevel and outgear what you are killing. It's similar to any automatic action you can perform in other MMORPGs, like auto-fishing, crafting something on repeat that takes time, or fighting a dummy for some XP, things that we have seen before. It also can be seen as a quality of life improvement for people that might have a handicap, like a missing limb for example. It will make it a bit easier for those people to play the game. Another minor benefit of having something like this is that it will allow people with real lives that can only play a few hours a day to slightly close the gap between themselves and people that play 12 hours a day, and of course having this feature in the game will close the gap between legit players that do not cheat and people that will use macros and bots anyway. Make no mistakes, actively playing the game rather than using this feature or even macros will put you way ahead. As we have seen from the Korean beta, people that actively play the game were level 30 days before it ended, while people that used AutoCombat barely made it to 25 or 26 by the end of it. There is an argument against this feature that I have seen, and sadly, while it makes some sense, it does not apply to the real world. The argument states that the game will be designed around this feature, so drop rates and XP from mobs will be nerfed and other changes that will account for this feature. This would be true and would make a lot of sense in a bubble where bots did not exist, but sadly, as we have seen from previous real-life examples, developers will need to nerf the drop rates and make various changes to account for the overwhelming amount of bots. We don't have to look very far for examples. We have seen this happen in Lost Ark. If you add this to the fact that this feature will mostly be useless in real fights, we can determine that real content should not suffer because this exists in the game. I hope that both AGS and the players that are against this feature realize how silly their worries are, and that there are only benefits to having something like this in the game, however small those benefits would be. There is one last thing to mention about this topic. There are websites that I will not name that sell bots. These bots are sold as subscription services and usually cost around $50 a month, and as you can imagine, having a feature like this built into the game ruins their business. And personally, I have no doubt that a lot of pushback that we have seen online against this feature has been enabled by people selling these services. Just something to think about when you see an overwhelming support for people condemning this feature. The last thing that I want to touch on in this video is the no pay to win mentioned in the interview. Despite this not being related to the topic, I feel like saying a few words about it. If you have been playing MMORPGs at the very least for a while, you will be well aware that these are just empty words. Companies always say this before releasing a new MMO. Even AGS said that there will be no pay to win before Lost Ark came out, and look how that turned out. Realistically, even if the companies completely eliminate pay to win from the game, and it will not be in your face, it will always exist in MMORPGs, because of real money traders. This is not something that we can escape, unless playing the game will require using our real life IDs to make an account. What I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't believe empty words, especially when all evidence points towards this never being the case. Anyway, that's all I wanted to share in this video. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. See you in the next one, gamers.